If you're watching this screencast, you should have completed activity number 1. In your interactive notebook, you should have read the article, Should Schools Track Kids? You should have read and annotated it, marking evidence that both supports and goes against it, filled out the Post-its that go on your chart, and then use that to help you complete the Wiser Me, which you found here. That is a graded assignment. I will grade that today when I get home, and it is an assignment that I expect should get you should be easily done with during class. The second activity, you may or may not finish. If you do finish, make sure you turn it in. But on the blackboard, in one of my little files, there's a copy of this handout. And you are going to watch a screencast and take some notes here and put the examples over here, and then do a couple of example sentences to learn about coordinate adjectives. Okay. All right, so there are 2 standards we just really haven't spent much time talking about for 7th grade that we need to cover, and they have to do with adjectives. We'll talk about misplaced modifiers maybe on Friday or Monday of next week. So an adjective, let's review really quickly what an adjective is. An adjective is a word that describes a noun or a pronoun, and we use our 7th grade word describes as modifies. Gives additional information about a noun or a pronoun. And take a second and copy down a few examples here of some adjectives. Unselfish person, an active runner, a funny movie. These are all adjectives. Questions that adjectives can answer are what kind. So if I'm talking about food, what kind of food? Baby food. If I'm talking about baseball, which one? Which base? Third base. How many? Several times. How much does it cost? $5. And I added this one in, although it's not necessarily, I think, one of the standard questions we usually look at. But possessive nouns and pronouns can become possessive, and they describe ownership. So whose is it? Whose car? Her car, or Mary's car. So those words can be used as adjectives when they are in their possessive form. Okay, so you're writing these 5 questions down in your notes, and then you're putting down some examples. So we can then break adjectives down into different categories. We have categories that we call determiners. They determine which one you're talking about. A, an, his, hers. We have opinion adjectives that describe, in my opinion, it could be cold, ugly, heroic, enthusiastic. These are opinion words because not everyone might agree. We have words that describe size, shape, the age of something, the color of something, the origin of where it came from, what material it's made from, and then we have these things called qualifiers. A qualifier is a noun that's used as an adjective, and I know that we've come across a lot of these this year, and I always say, oh, it's just an adjective, and it falls into this category. Same with a verb that ends in ing. Now, if I'm writing and I want to put some adjectives in order, maybe I want to put a list of 2 or 3 adjectives describing the same noun. Like I might say a minuscule hound dog, her petite evening gown. There's actually an order in which it makes sense to put these adjectives, and I have them numbered in this way. Now, it's certainly not something that I would expect you to memorize, but it does help when you're thinking about if your description makes sense. So this is just a little handy reference page that we'll keep in our notebook. So 2 adjectives that are next to each other that we have a special type of are called coordinate adjectives. And there are 2 adjectives that fit in that same category. So maybe 2 adjectives that are determiners, 2 adjectives that are describing the size or the shape. If they're in that same category, we call them coordinate adjectives, and we should put a comma between them. So here I have 2 adjectives, and I would say these are both opinion adjectives describing this spider. The happy spider and the lively spider quickly chased Mrs. Culleton around the room. So since both of these are within the same category, they're both opinion adjectives modifying the same noun, I should put a comma. Now this one seems a little bit easier probably to determine. Sometimes it's a little more difficult. And so we have some tests that we can do. So the first test says to place the word and between the adjectives. If I can say the happy and lively spider quickly chased Mrs. Culleton around the room, I could take the and out and just put a comma. Another test to try is to reverse the order of the adjectives. So instead of saying the happy lively spider, could I say the lively happy spider quickly chased Mrs. Culleton around the room? That makes sense as well, and it sounds like it makes sense too. They're both opinion adjectives, so we are able to put a comma in between them. So what you're going to do now is trying these two tests here. I gave you some sentences down here. Your example sentence says, add the comma if you decide it's necessary. Well, to decide if it's necessary, we're going to follow these two tests to see. The first one says, rewrite the word and between the two adjectives. The Civil War was captured on film by brave, dedicated photographers. So I'm not sure if I need a comma between them, so I'm going to rewrite them, brave and dedicated. And that sounds good. So my first test sounds like it should work. I'm going to try the next one. The Civil War was captured on film by dedicated, brave photographers, and that works as well. So I'm going to circle yes, and then I'm going to go back in here and put a comma. So you're going to finish doing these other 4 examples, and if you finish, turn it in. If you do not finish, it is not homework. We'll finish it in class tomorrow, but your homework is to just make sure that you get your grammar corrections done. Stop. You can stop. I don't know how. There we go.